So what we're going to talk about today is do a quick review of what we talked about last time with the scope and global keyword. Quick review of scope and the global keyword and where that's used and useful. We'll do a quick introduction to Booleans and if-else statements. And we'll talk about relational and logical operators, which are very much alike the kind of arithmetic operators we've been dealing with so far, but they talk about the relationships between things instead. So, a couple bits of housekeeping first. We have made some updates to the platform, so you can see when you go to ignite.aeronite.com, you should see a small folder in the top left corner. So you should be able to use that and browse and open your files through there. Again, as always, if you have any issues with that, please do let us know and we will do what we can to help you out with that. And another bit of housekeeping. Sorry, I've lost my mouse. Another bit of housekeeping is we're going to change the way we're doing the quick answer questions. So those are the in sort of session questions that we've done for the past few weeks. In the interests of trying to make it both a bit more fair and a bit harder for people to set up their answers beforehand, we're now going to be doing these questions through Zoom polls. So the question will be on the slides, then a multiple choice poll will pop up on your screen. Everyone who chooses the correct answer will earn the points. These points will only be added to your total at the end of all 8 sessions. So, a quick review of scope as we get into our content for the evening. So if we want to use variables which change in setup or draw, we need to make those variables outside of any of our indentations. So before we put in setup or we put in draw, and then we use the global keyword to tell those sort of segments that they need to go looking at the global level. So it's a bit like the analogy we have on screen with laws, where Canada and the US each have their own scope for laws. So we have the Canada scope for laws, and there we have that you must be 18 to drink. Then we have the United States scope for laws, where you must be 21 to drink. But then at the global scope, we have a totally different rule that applies to both. And so that would be something along the lines of human rights laws. So here's a code example of this. So we would create X as a global variable. Then we do our setup to create our canvas, and then we draw using, we start with our template, and then we put in global X, and that tells draw that when it wants to use the variable X, it needs to go looking at the global scope. So we then set X equal to X plus 1, and we draw a circle at X position of X, a Y position of 250, and with a diameter of 20. I'm just going to switch us over to coding so that we can have a quick example of that, and so I can make sure that this is all working as best as I can get it. So let me know if there's any issues with my screen or my share at present, and we will get started. So as always, we will need to do import Spark and then we can run that, and in a new cell we will say % ignite, then we will say X equals 10 def setup. We will say size of because my screen is so zoomed in, I'm going to make it a bit smaller. I'm going to say 300 300, and we'll say def draw global X. We'll say X equals X plus 1, and then we will draw a circle at X 250 20. And when we run that, we see a circle that moves across the screen. It doesn't look much like a circle because I didn't put a background in, but that was the code that we had as an example. So we will switch back to the presentation. So quick question 1 for today. Why are X equals 5 and Y equals 10 not accessible by the draw function? And on the right, you can see our code sample. We have X equals 5, Y equals 10. def setup, size 500, 500, def draw, square xy 50, x plus equals 3, y plus equals 1. It'll give you all a bit to answer those. Yeah. And again, if you have any issues seeing the question, please do let us know so that we can try and help you out as best we can. But it looks like most people are getting it.
Liam, let me know when you want me to close the poll.
Yeah, I reckon we'll go for about a minute and a half. So that's another 15 seconds or so. You have 5 seconds to put in your answer, everyone. So the correct answer was because there's no line saying global x, y in draw. So when the draw function tries to go and use x and y to draw its square and then to update the values of x and y, it doesn't know what you're talking about because you didn't have the line global x, y. Okay, moving on. We're now going to talk about booleans. So previously we've talked about a few different kinds of variables. We've talked about integers and floats, and we've talked about strings. So ints and floats represent numbers, strings represent kind of, well, strings of characters, words, sentences, that sort of thing. Booleans are another kind of variable that can only be true or false. And so these are very useful for if statements, as we'll get to, and checking conditions in general. So below on the lower half of the slide, you can see a couple of Boolean assignments that should be true for all of you. So we have in high school, which would be true, and notice that's a capital T. And we have it's summer, which is false. It's currently fall, getting into winter. And again, capital F on false. So those will not work if you have a lowercase t or lowercase f in true or false. So we then have the comparison operators, also known as the relational operators, because they talk about how do two items relate to each other. So these all pretty much should be straightforward. We have less than, which is the less than sign. We have less than or equal to. We have greater than or equal to. And then we have equal to, and you'll note that that's two equal signs, because one equal sign is our assignment operator from before. So if you just have the one equal sign, that's not checking to see if those are equal, it's setting the left side to be equal to the right side. And the last one we have is not equal to, and that uses an exclamation point followed by the equal sign. And that is pretty much just for some historical reasons where we ran out of symbols on the keyboard. So with our newfound knowledge of Booleans and relational operators, we can now talk about if statements. So if statements are very useful if you want to run some code only in certain circumstances. So you can see kind of the basic, very basic outline of what an if statement will look like on the slide here. So you'll have some code before the if statement, then you'll have if condition, where condition is whatever it is that you want to be checking. Underneath that and indented, you'll have some code that you'll only want to run if that condition is true, and then after the if statement, you'll have some more code, and that will run regardless. The condition, all it really needs is to somehow become a Boolean. So you could do if true, if false, or you could set variables to true or false, or you could use our relational operators, all of which return true and false. So here's an example. This is the sort of algorithm that your thermostat might follow. So you say if house temperature is less than 20, then furnace on equals true. So once the temperature in your house drops below 20, you want to turn on the furnace. then you could say if house temperature is greater than 25, furnace on equals false. And so that would then turn your furnace off when your house got warmer than 25. Again, pay attention. Note that it's indented by one tab. The platform should pretty much do that for you, but you do need to pay attention to that. The indents are very important. Also note that at the end of every line that we have an if statement, we have this colon, and that tells the program where to stop looking for the condition and where to start looking for the code that it should run if that condition is true. We have also a slightly different, a slightly more complicated statement. Good question, Zaydan. That's exactly what we're getting to, is else statements. So if else. So when we want to do one thing if something is true and something else if it isn't true, then you use an if else statement. So that will check to see if your condition is true, then you want to do one thing. Otherwise, do a different thing. And that's using else. Carter, yes, we will get to that. So on the right side of the slide, you can see a sort of flowchart that goes through an if statement. So we have if you are you get a phone call. The question is, are you driving? So if you are driving, then you want to send the call to voicemail. Else, you want to let the call through, and so you can answer it and talk to whoever it is that's called you. I mean, you don't want to do that if you're me, but in theory, you want to answer it. Quick question 2. What color is the background and ball when mouse X is 100? And over on the right, you can again see the code that we are using here. So we have if mouse X is greater than 250, we have background red, else background blue, etc. And again, we'll go for about a minute and a half for you all to answer this. So we have about 15 seconds for you all to enter your answers. Somebody has submitted an answer they are unhappy with. I don't know how we are resolving that at present. So you can see the correct results. Fewer people got this one correct, where the background will be blue, the bow will be yellow when we draw. And I'm just going to swap us over to the coding window where I have that set up so that we can all see that, and I will explain why that's true. So you can see when mouse X is 100, which is somewhere over here, I've slightly changed the code where we have if mouse X is greater than 150 instead of greater than 250, but overall it's the same. So when mouse X is 100, meaning somewhere on the left side, we have a blue background and a yellow circle, and on the right side we have a red background and a yellow circle. So why is that? Well, we check to see first if mouse X is greater than 250, and if it is, we set the background to red. Otherwise, we set the background to blue and our fill style to green. Then, regardless of what mouse X is, we set our fill style to yellow. And then we draw our circle. So the fill style that we set in the else condition is overridden, because after that we set our fill style again. Okay. So we have here another example using if statements to make a disappearing ball. So if we draw a line down the center of the screen, then we can show If mouse X is less than 250, meaning it's on the left half of the screen, then we will fill it with red 25500, and then we'll draw our circle. Otherwise, we don't do anything, right? We don't have an else condition, and we don't have any code after that. I will just quickly pop us over to the coding window again, and we will just show that. So we'll do and again, I'm changing the sizes just so it works better on my screen. Whoops. Bit of a slip there. And then we will say if mouse X is less than 250, fill 25500, circle mouse X. I wonder if am I on the, hold on everyone, I may be on last year's presentation. That would be awkward, wouldn't it? Let me switch you all back over to the presentation and double check that. We have Samuel can't load into Jupyter Lab. It seems like we just have a slight error in our slides there, so my apologies, everyone. Carter has asked, does Python do math like BEDMAS? Like if you do 2 plus 3 times 6, will it do it properly? The answer is yes, it will do that correctly. One thing to note is that there is no, the exponentiation works differently. And multiplication and division are at the same priority. So it won't strictly do division before multiplication or multiplication before division, but that shouldn't actually, it just does those left to right. So if you had something like 4 divided by 2 times 3, that would be 4 divided by 2, which is 2 times 3, so 6. Which is in that case the same, but there are circumstances where that might work out differently. Okay. I am going to switch us back over to the coding window and just finish up this example with these corrected variables. Oops. Fill style. And we will draw a line from 250, 0 to 250, whoops, by 250, I mean 150, because I am on a slightly different size than the code there. So you can see we'll draw the circle on the left side, but we won't as soon as I go over to the right side. Okay. Then we have an example of a mirrored ball using if-else. So here we draw our line again. We say we have the same thing where if mouse X is less than 250, meaning it's on the left half of the screen, we fill our style. Then we draw our circle at mouse X, mouse Y, and with a size of 30. Otherwise, we're going to fill style 255, 150, 150, and that's kind of, you can think of that as just getting closer to white, so it's about halfway between red and white, or pinkish. And we're going to draw that at 500 minus mouse X, and mouse, then our Y position is mouse Y, and our size is the same, it's 30. And that'll give us effectively a mirroring of our movement, but over on the left half of the screen. So I'm just going to come back in here, and we'll say then else fill style 255, 150, 150, circle 300 minus mouse X, mouse Y, and 30. And if we run that again, we see over here we draw, but as soon as I go over on the right side, it mirrors over to the left side and it turns pink. And that brings us to the first exercise of the evening. So the exercise is to draw a circle at the top left-hand corner of the window, make the circle move horizontally to the right until it disappears, and then make the circle reappear back at the left side of the screen. And we will send you all to your breakout rooms so you can work on that with your mentors.
If you're not in a breakout room, just type which room you're supposed to be in.
Okay, it seems like we have just about everybody back, so we will continue on. But first, I will briefly go over this exercise. So, switch us over to that window. And again, let me know if there are any issues with my video. I hope not, but you never know. We'll again do the basics. We'll set x equal to 0. That'll be the position of our ball. We'll say def setup. We'll make our size 300, 300. Whoops. Then we'll do draw. Start with global x. And then we're going to say background of black. We'll do fill style white. And we will draw a circle at x. And let's make it at 30 with the size of 60. And then the last thing we need to do is something like x plus equals 1 so that it'll move across the screen. And that's moving very slowly across the screen, but that's it. And if you just increase that number 1 to something like 2 or 3, then it would move across much faster, as you can see. So, moving on, we're now talking about elif. So this is the last kind of segment of if statements. So we have if, elif, else. And so this lets you check multiple different conditions in sequence. So on the slide we have one example where we're checking the price of something to determine if it's too expensive or if it's a good deal or a great deal. So if the price is greater than $40, it's too expensive for whatever it is that we're buying. If the price is greater than if it's less than $40 but greater than $30, then it's a good deal. Otherwise, if it's less than $30, then it's a great deal. And so we do that by checking first if price is greater than 40, and if it is, we print it's too expensive. We say elif, meaning if the price is greater than 30, then we print it's a good deal. Otherwise, if neither of those things were true, then we print it's a great deal. And you can see the flowchart describing how that would go as program flow over on the right side. Okay. Other thing that we want to talk about are logical expressions. So these let you combine Booleans into another Boolean. So if we had the statement, programming is fun and programming is useful, that would be true, because programming is fun is true, and programming is useful is true. So when we use and, it's only, the whole thing is only true if both sides are true. If we said something like this statement, Halloween has candy and Halloween has Easter eggs, then that's false because Halloween doesn't have Easter eggs, right? So and is only if they're both true. The statement Halloween has candy or Halloween has Easter eggs is true, as Halloween has at least one of those things. It has candy. The statement programming is fun or programming is useful would also be true. So you can think of or as pretty much counting. And it's if there's at least one thing, at least one side is true, then the or is true. And both sides need to be true. So using logical expressions, we can do some interesting things like we have here. So here we check to see if mouse X is greater than 250, meaning we're on the right side of the screen, and mouse Y is greater than 250, meaning we're on the bottom side of the screen. And on this example, we've also drawn in some lines to kind of demonstrate the quadrants that we're looking at. So if we are on the right side of the screen and we're on the bottom side of the screen, then we want to fill 0, 255, 0, meaning maximum green. Else we want to fill 0, 0, 255, meaning maximum blue. And then we want to draw a circle at our mouse position with a size of 30. And we will quickly pop over to the coding window and demonstrate that as well. And we will do our standard boilerplate, so def draw, then we'll say if mouse X is greater than 150 and mouse Y is greater than 150, and again I'm only using 150 because I have zoomed in so much on the screen. And here's actually a really good spot to demonstrate why we need the colon, right? Because that tells when Python doesn't see the colon after this bit, it knows it needs to keep looking for the condition. So this colon at the end tells it now the condition is done. In any case, if mouse X is greater than 150 and mouse Y is greater than 150, then we will do fill style 0, 255, 0, else fill styles 0, 0, 255, and then regardless, we will draw a circle at mouse X, mouse Y, and with a size of 30. And once again, I've not put in a background, but you can see that in the bottom right corner, we get a green circle, but everywhere else, we get a blue circle. So that brings us to exercise number 2, misnumbered, but exercise number 2 for the evening, and we will again send you all to your breakout rooms to work on this, and we will have some more stuff after that. So starting with the code that we just had, how do we make the ball be a different color in every corner of our screen? So we recommend using multiple LF blocks for that. And again, to breakout rooms when we are ready. Okay, looks like we've just about got everybody back. So we'll continue on to the last bits of content for today's presentation. But first we'll talk a little bit about the solution to that exercise. So, if you'll pardon me for just a second, there we go. So if we come in here, we can do much the same thing we did before. So we have, in fact, I'm going to go and copy paste the code from before, and we'll start by using that. So we're going to copy and paste that. And then in between here, we're going to add in conditions for some of the other quadrants. So this one covers the bottom right quadrant. So we're going to say elif mouse x is greater than 150. So we're still on the right side. And mouse y is less than or equal to 150. Then we will say fill style 0. Whoops. We'll make this one red, 25500. So we've now got the bottom right and the top right covered. We then just need to do one more, and the else clause will figure out the rest of it for us. We'll then say if elif mouse x is less than 150, say less than or equal to 150. Samuel has asked, would it be the same if you use greater than or equal to? Yes. I just personal preference. I don't like to leave ranges on with some undefined inputs. So we're on the left side. So we'll do say the bottom left side, and we'll do mouse y is greater than 150. So mouse x less than or equal to 150 means we're on the left. Mouse y greater than 150 means we're on the bottom. And here we'll fill in, say, yellow. So we'll say fill style. Yellow is red 255, green 255, blue 0. And I'm also going to add in a background of white. And if we run this one, we can see that in the top left we have blue, bottom left we have yellow, bottom right we have green, and top right we have red. Okay. So another thing that you can do to make more complicated expressions is use the not operator with and. So not will take true and turn it into false, and false and turn it into true. So you can see here we have the question, do you like green eggs and ham? So we then set like green eggs to be false and like ham to be false. So if we say if not like green eggs, meaning we don't like green eggs, and not like ham, meaning we also don't like ham, then we want to print I do not like green eggs and ham, I do not like them, Sam I am. And that will print. And the reason for that is when we do not like green eggs, that's not false, which is true. Not like ham is not false, which is again true. So we end up with true and true, which is true. Okay, we have another special variable we want to mention at this point. It's mouse is pressed, and that's all lowercase with underscores between mouse and is and pressed. This is a Boolean, so it has true or false. True means you are clicking down on either mouse button. False means you aren't clicking down on either mouse button. So you have an example here of how you might be able to use this, which I will again demonstrate. Swap back over to here. Say def setup size 300. Whoops, 300. Let's make our background gray just to match. And we will say if mouse is pressed, text mouse is pressed at x position 250, y position 400, which is going to be way too big So let's reduce those numbers by a bit. We'll say 150 and 250 instead. And we will set our fill style to red. Else, so mouse is pressed should be false here. We're going to say text mouse is not pressed at 150, 250, and fill style white. And then we will draw a circle at 150, 150 with a size of, let's say, let's go for 80. So if we run that, it's currently white, but when I press my mouse, you can see it turns red and changes the text. And so that brings us to the end of the content that we have for today. That's all of the new stuff we want to introduce. We do have the exercises for this week. So the Bug Busters exercises, we have a ball bouncing around on angles. So that's like some old screensavers, if you guys are old enough to remember screensavers on LCDs. And then on the right, we have a ball which rises while your mouse is held and falls or goes back to the bottom as soon as you let go. You don't need to do the eyes or rectangles that we have on there. The basic ball is okay for full marks. The Pythonic lava exercises, on the left we have a ball that you can click and drag to fire, so the longer you drag, the faster it should be moving, and it should go in the opposite direction. And then the right exercise, we have a ball which bounces around the screen and a paddle which it can bounce off of. And if it misses the paddle, it should go off the bottom of the screen. You don't need to put any color changing in order to get full marks. And then we have some exercises that are just for fun. I have no idea what that one on the left is, but it certainly looks cool. And then on the right, we have a ball bouncing across the screen and losing height as it goes. So those are our exercises. We'll go back to the breakout rooms for a while for you guys to work on those. And again, if you had any problems with any of the exercises that we worked on in the session, or you had any other questions, please ask your mentors while you're there. But I think we are ready to go to breakout rooms. And Mo.
been feeling something. Where have you been? I can't wait to see you again. And if escapes from wanting, when an our skin, and then we can come back to the same thing. 12 boring lights, babe. Let the morning last forever, but you always want to go back the same thing. 12 boring lights, babe. Let the morning last forever, but you always want to go back the same thing. But you always want to go back, 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 want to go back the same thing.
Okay, well, that is everything that we have for you guys for this evening. I hope you all had a good time. I hope you learned something. And yeah, remember to submit the your solutions to the exercises. Remember, we have the social media challenges that you can work on. And yeah, thank you all very much for your time. Have a great evening and a great rest of your week. And we will talk to you next week.